we both stream with Grant, and yet, we don't always agree. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean,
Yeah.
we all have different thoughts, and that's great.
Diversity of opinions is a good thing, people.
Exactly. And Grant's a better guy than people think, by the way. But
He is.
Grant has tweeted out 49ers should trade Brock Purdy if he wants more than $50 million per year. What would you say? If we were doing a stream right now and Grant just jumped in with this line, the Niners should trade Brock Purdy if he wants more than $50 million per year. There are people in the Niner fan base that absolutely agree with this. And then I would say there are more that don't. But where are you on the I don't want to say ridiculous because it's not ridiculous, but the the dramatic move of, hey, the Purdy negotiations aren't going well. Let's pull the ripcord and trade this guy. Do you agree?
Yeah, I disagree. And I think that the going rate for a top 10 quarterback, and if you disagree that Purdy's top 10, he's borderline top 10, he's 10 to 13, is $50+ million per year, especially for a player who's played under $1 million every single season that he's been in the NFL. And so from Purdy's standpoint, he's trying to make up for what he's lost and has not gotten as far as his contract. And again, let me point to that Jalen Hurts scenario, right? Is Jalen Hurts an elite thrower of the football? No. Now, is he special in the way where he's a dual threat guy? He's very strong. He has the clutch gene and has played his best football in the biggest of games? For sure. In 2 Super Bowls against Steve Spagnuolo, he's put up nearly 700 yards and 7 touchdowns, and he's outplayed Patrick Mahomes in both of those games. But the Jalen Hurts contract, he's making $51 million per year. And think about all the players that the Eagles are paying. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, soon to be Cam Jurgens, Saquon Barkley. Dallas Goedert has been a top 5 highest paid tight end. You can pay a quarterback $50+ million and still pay other players and build up your football team. Under this condition, you have to hit on your draft picks as well to help build up depth and fill in your starting lineup. The Eagles have been able to do that. The Niners have had far too many misses. And so Purdy, throughout much of his tenure as a starting quarterback, has put up top 10 numbers. He's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with him needing talent around him to succeed. Some of the great quarterbacks throughout NFL history have also needed complementary playmakers and good coaching around them to win big games and win Super Bowls. It's almost as if when you win the Super Bowl, your team's great. And so Purdy has played at a level where he's demand $50+ million. He's also been the best bargain in the NFL. His first 3 years in the NFL, I would not trade him away because what's the alternative? If you're in quarterback purgatory, you're effed. You're screwed in the National Football League. And Purdy gives you a chance to win week in, week out, and he's proven that you can win big with him.
Do you have a player on day 3 you're fired up about?
Day 3
at any position, really. Just just a day 3 prospect that you've stumbled on that you're like, hey, you know what, man, I really like that guy.
Yeah, I love the William and Mary offensive tackle Charles Grant. I think is going to be an excellent player. He could go day 2, but he's kind of that borderline day 2, day 3 guy. Braden Swinson, the defensive lineman out of LSU, is an excellent player who I think is going to be really good. I like Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker out of Cal. Love the athleticism that he brings to the table. And this running back class is so deep where I know Kyle Shanahan might not be able to help himself. He might have to take a running back in round 3 again. But if you wait until day 3, I think that you can get some excellent day 3 running backs. An Ollie Gordon, a Damian Martinez, does a Caleb Johnson fall? Does a Cam Scattaboo, because he ran a little bit slow at his pro day, does he fall a little bit to round 4? But those are some of the players who I think could be some really good late day 2, day 3 targets. Jake Majors, the Texas center. I think that he could be a 7th round guy that would be a good scheme fit for Kyle Shanahan and good competition to Jake Brendel. And those are some of the players, that I'm kind of thinking of just off the dome that I don't have a list in front of me because I'm not at my usual place of recording.
No problem. Baldy says that Darius Alexander.
That's another
Toledo.
one. The Toledo defensive tackle. He's 24, but I like him. Yeah.
Yeah. He says he's a strong fit for the Niners.
Yeah.
Is there a player that you're like, oh my God, steer clear? Just do not touch this player with a 10-foot pole. I just don't feel good. I don't believe in him. I don't like him. I'm much more in the category of players that I like than players that I don't like, because I just don't have a lot of time to look for, to spend looking at players I don't like necessarily. But I'm not a huge fan of Kelvin Banks, who I know was the Outland Trophy winner and he won the Lombardi Award. And I mean, to me, I like Membu, but then after Membu, I'm with you. I'd rather wait on the tackle and go with an Arianti Ursary. Yep. Anthony Belton played from an outside zone system. He's a house from NC State. To me, Ursary or Belton in round 3 is a better play than some Kelvin Banks pick at 11.
Yeah. You know who I also like too, just thinking about it? Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia. He's a really good player. The player that I want to stay away from is Shamar Stewart for the reasons that I mentioned. I get that he's a freak athlete, and I get that the athletic testing was incredible. Ran so well in the 40-yard dash. I know the pressure numbers are good. But if you're that athletic and you're that freakish, why only 1.5 sacks each of the last 3 years on nearly 700 pass rush snaps? And why do you miss so many tackles? That to me is just a no-go. And I like Kelvin Banks. I'm not sure if he's a tackle or a guard. I think that he can be a tackle. My issue with Banks, for his size, he's on the ground way too much. And so I'd almost rather, instead of taking a player like Banks at 11, that's when you go Ursary in the 2nd round, Charles Grant in the 3rd round, Anthony Belton in the 3rd or 4th round. I'd rather do that because I like the value there and the potential upside. Whereas if you go Banks at 11, you miss out potentially on a really good edge or a really good defensive tackle.
My thing is that, the one thing through the years, when I go back and look at my notes of guys who have missed or I missed on, it's usually a player who was highly rated out of high school, who everybody had some preconceived notion that he was going to be great. And he plays for a huge dominant Power 5 program and then looks okay, but not great. And then just based on kind of the measurables and the rankings, he kind of gets graduated through. And all of a sudden it's like, this guy's special. And it's like every guy from Bama is not special. Every guy from LSU is not special. Every guy from Georgia is not special. And I just feel like every guy from Ohio State's not special. To me, there's 2 guys in this draft that I think are being elevated by their surroundings and by their program. And that's Jack Sawyer from, and I know you like Jack Sawyer initially, but the more I watch Jack Sawyer, I just see a guy who's very, very stiff. He just is very stiff at 260. I love the motor, and he was good for the Buckeyes. But if I got to go with one of the 2 guys, to me, the production of JT Tuimoloau in the playoffs and the bigger body, I like Tuimoloau more than I like Sawyer. So I think Sawyer's a little bit overinflated, and I think Mikael Williams, who was a 5-star, was going to SC, and then Clay Helton said, no, Clay Helton got fired. Then he said, no, I'm not going to SC. He's from Columbus, Georgia. He went to Georgia. And he played all right at times, but he looks awesome. And I think people look at him and say, oh, yeah, look at this guy, 6'5", 260. He's super ripped. But he ran 4.77, and he didn't have tons and tons of production. And to me, when I watch Georgia, and I watch them weekly because I really love watching them, to me, I noticed Jalen Walker a ton. I noticed Malachi Starks a ton. I didn't notice Mikael Williams hardly ever. Hardly
Right.
ever. So
Yeah.
that would be the one guy. Mikael Williams in round 1, Jack Sawyer in round 2. I think Mikael Williams is a second round pick, and I think Sawyer's more of a day 3 pick. And I think they're being, elevated based on their surroundings and their programs. And by the way, Mikael Williams, I think a lot of people saying, oh, the Niners are going to take him at 11. I'm pretty sure the Niners aren't going to take him at 11. Why? He was going to the draft, and yesterday he said, I'm not going to the draft. And to me, if you're going 11th, you're going to the draft. The only reason you're not going to go to the draft is if your agent says, you know what, you may go in the mid-20s, and you don't want to sit there for hours on camera.
Yeah.
Or in the green room waiting. So I think Jackson Dart and Mikael Williams yesterday both said they're not going to the draft, and Hairston, the Kentucky corner, said that he is. And I think they all said it for the same reasons. I think Hairston's going to go, 20 to 25, and he's going in round 1, so he wants to be there. And I think Dart and Mikael Williams may have gotten indications that they're going late in round 1, or maybe not in round 1, and they don't want to go. What do you think?
Yes, some of these corners, by the way, you mentioned Maxwell Hairston, they can fly, man. Yeah. I mean, Jahdae Barron can fly, Maxwell Hairston can fly, Trey Amos can fly. There are a lot of corners in this class. Jacob Parrish, I love his mentality with how he plays out of Kansas State. Like, he's a 4-3, 4-4 guy. That's why I'm kind of worried about Will Johnson to the Niners at number 11. I get the big-time playmaking ability. The ball skills are there. Oftentimes when he intercepts passes, they go back for pick sixes, but he plays his best off ball when he can see the field in front of him, but lacks recovery speed. He's been dealing with lower body injuries. And I was listening to Ryan Russillo with Todd McShay and Daniel Jeremiah. They were just doing some NFL draft talk, and it brought me back to the golden era of ESPN when the network was actually good and had great talent. Right. And they were taught. It's a shame what's happened to them. And they were talking about how they're hearing like some chatter that Will Johnson's been running in the 4.6s, 40-yard dashes by himself, and so that really worries me with a player like that. But yeah,
I never again. After Trey Lance, I never again will ever be satisfied with miles per hour.
Yeah,
you can't. You're not. I don't care if you tell me you run 750 miles per hour. I don't care. I want to see the 40 time. And here's the bottom line: guys who can jump do. Guys who can run do. Guys who can lift do. If a guy skips a particular test, it's because he can't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and Johnson hasn't done anything in the pre-draft. And so I'd almost rather go Jahdae Barron if the Niners go corner at number 11 than Will Johnson. And the other thing with Barron, he's the best zone corner in this draft. Well, since Kyle Shanahan became head coach, the Niners have the number 1 zone rate on defense. And so he's a good athlete. Texas asked him to do a lot. He played all over the field. He was a really good leader for that team. And he's a good scheme fit. And that kind of allows you to put Deommodore Lenoir on the inside, where he's very good on the outside. He's elite as a nickel corner. And so if you have Barron, Lenoir, Renardo Green, that is an excellent young cornerback trio. I know we got kind of off track a little bit, but those are just some draft thoughts that I was thinking about as you were kind of going. What was the original question? This is the thing with the draft and prospects. We just kind of nerd out.
Yeah, we're all over the place. I'm all over the place on the prospects.
Because you're right. I do like Sawyer a little bit more than you. I know he's not twitchy. He doesn't have great bend, but he has really strong hands. I love the motor. I like the overall strength. I like the production. I like the availability. I like the focus and the work ethic. A lot of people knocked a Trent Cole or a Max Crosby in the pre-draft for those same reasons. I think both of them were 5th-round picks. Obviously, Crosby more recent than Trent Cole, but I look at Jack Sawyer as a very similar player to that.
I share the screen on this one. One more on the kind of an interesting note. I don't know if it's accurate or not. According to 49ers and NFL News 24/7, the 49ers had several scouts in Georgia today per sources. Jalen Walker and Mikael Williams gave teams a last chance to see them on the field before the draft next week. They did individual drills and met with several team scouts. Who do you think, if both these guys are there at 11, who do you want?
Jalen Walker, Jalen Walker, Jalen Walker, Jalen Walker. I think his ability as a player who can help your pass rush and a player who can help you as an off-ball linebacker is really incredible. The athleticism, the body type is certainly there. I know you and I have talked about how he comes from being a coach's son, great leader within that Georgia program. The production was there. Mykel Williams, there was a lack of production. A lot of people say that was due to him having to deal with an ankle injury all throughout this past year. He is twitchy. He is a really good athlete, but I just think Jalen Walker is the better player, and I just like how you can use him in a couple of different ways, whereas I think Williams is more so one-dimensional.
I love Jalen Walker.
Yeah.
And
one of my favorite players in this draft.
Yeah, a lot of people feel like he's going to bust. He's going to be a bust. Hey, covering the Eagles, have you ever had a chance to actually interview Howie?
Yeah, I've talked to Howie a few times.
What do you think their connection? I know Lynch is buddies with Kirby, so the Niners have a Georgia connection, but the Eagles have done the Georgia thing to death.
Yeah.
Are you projecting a Georgia player to who are you projecting to the Eagles at the end of the first round? Or is it, I've seen James Pierce, I've seen, some really great prospects make it down to them. What do you think the Eagles do at the end of the first round? And why do you think, what is their connection to Georgia? Why is it that they're so Georgia, such big fans of that program, you think?
There was a turning point, and it was when the Eagles took Jalen Reagor out of TCU and passed up on Justin Jefferson. Howie was like, I got to stop being the smartest guy in the room, and we just have to go with the best players from the best programs who play against the most elite competition. And so right after the Eagles drafted Jalen Reagor, what did they do? Drafted Devontae Smith, and then it really started their run on Georgia players, because I think Howie looked at Georgia as the best team, the best program, the most success, with the best athletes and the best football players going up against the best competition in college football. And it's worked out wonderfully. And instead of trying to find that gem after Howie missed on Jalen Reagor, missed on Marcus Smith, part of the front office that drafted Danny Watkins as an offensive lineman, they just said, we're done with this. We're going to tap into the best pipelines of college football and take the best players, because the chances are they're going to be impactful players at the NFL level. And so that was kind of the switch of their philosophy, in my opinion. And what they've done is certainly back that up. At 32, I think they could go in a couple of different ways. If Walter Nolan falls, he is such an Eagle. If James Pierce falls, I think he's an Eagle. Nick Scorton is another name to watch. If Malachi Starks or Nick Emanwuri go to 32, I think they are both players to look out for. If Gray Zabel is there, Howie's obsessed with building the trenches, and I wish John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan had more of that attitude along the offensive line.
Good stuff, man. Were you there when the Eagles are not there, but were you watching the draft or were you covering the Eagles when the Eagles had that argument between Tom Donahoe and another guy in the war room? Basically,
that was for Milton Williams, by the way.
Yeah, but do you remember who Donahoe wanted? Because it was Donahoe wanted somebody that wasn't Milton Williams, and Howie wanted Milton. They drafted Milton. Howie's high-fiving all these guys. He gets to the white-haired Donahoe, and Donahoe was like, had arms crossed, and he gave him the, like this. And I remember saying at the time, Howie's right, Donahoe's wrong. Milton's better than this guy. And I forget who the hell that guy was.
Yeah.
But Donahoe wanted another D tackle, and they went Milton Williams, who was like a pass rusher, great athlete from La Tech. And the guy that he wanted was maybe a little bit more productive, but not nearly as athletic as Milton. And, I mean, heck, Milton was the top free agent signing of New England. So he, and obviously won a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl with Milton. You don't remember who that was? I don't remember who it was. But Donahoe wanted the other guy, whoever the other guy was.
I think Donahoe wanted a corner. And the Eagles instead went Milton Williams, defensive tackle. And I think what happened was the Giants traded up 5 spots to go ahead of them. I'm kind of trying to look at an article right now to see who exactly it was. UCF's Aaron Robinson came off the board, and I think that's the player that Donahue wanted, or it may have been Aleem McNeil, who is also
that's it. That's
player.
it.
It's Aleem McNeil.
Who's good? Who's good?
Yeah,
but Milton Williams
and he
was
got
more of a
paid,
rusher.
and Milton Williams got paid. So I guess both were right. But Milton Williams obviously helped the Eagles win the Super Bowl. But that was a legendary clip, and that's what can happen in more rooms.
Oh, it's awesome! It was great.
Yeah,
and it's like there's a lot of Type A personalities, man. There's a lot of strong opinions. Yeah. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Chase, always appreciate you, bro, and have a great weekend. What do you got planned for draft week? I mean, anything different on Chat Sports during draft week? I know during the draft you guys do a bunch of stuff, but how about the week of starting Monday?
Yeah. So, for the draft, I'll be live every day, every round, talking about every pick for the Niners, deep dives on every pick, and then grades at the end of kind of each day of the draft. And then in the week, obviously, leading up to it, which starts on Monday, just a bunch of draft content. I'll drop my final mock on Wednesday, and then maybe some draft rumors on Thursday before the draft. So looking forward to it. I know you'll crush as well.
Oh, man, we always do. Kevin and I will go live after every pick, and I'll do some stuff on Thursday night on KMBR. Looking forward to a great draft and bringing you guys as much content as we possibly can. And that's our commitment to you guys.